All right, looking at Bitcoin here on the daily. Today is August 8th, 2025. You can see here we are pushing up. We are approaching a very, very critical decision time here on the daily as this trendline support meets with trendline resistance. We can see within the next, August 10th, August 13th, I would say, by mid-August, August 15th, we should have a decision time where the market figures out whether or not this trend line is going to break to the downside for a 100K retest or continue this bull run up higher towards the Fibonacci extension levels. So we know that Bitcoin is trying to hold on right now to the critical 50 period volume weighted moving average. We saw the price action come into this moving average and pop out above it. So that's another key piece of information that I'm watching. We know this point of control as we zoom in now to the 4-hour chart. We can see this red line coming across the screen is the volume profile, the point of control where the most volume was traded right here around 118. So we can see the move that we called out in the last video 2 days ago. We were actually saying that we broke above this moving average and we're going to likely want to push up and retest this sort of high volume area. And that's appears to be what has been happening over the past couple of days. We pushed up and now you can see 4 points of contact on this trend line resistance. So it makes sense for this price action to want to peel off that and come back down into this level as we, determine this key battleground area. So very, very critical time to drill into the Bitcoin charts and keep a close eye on this because there is going to be a very, very big move coming based on what I am seeing with this, pretty obvious pattern. All right. So that's the 1 hour. That's the 4 hour. Let's check in on the 1 hour and see how we're doing. So we can see very clearly on this 1 hour chart the 2 points of support there on the trendline support and the resistance here, 1, 2. So we came up into it there yesterday. Now we're trying to hold on to this 50 period moving average on the 1 hour as well, kind of slip below it just in the last hour. So I would not be surprised now if you wanted to go like this, guys, and you take a fixed range volume profile, perhaps just from here. And we can see where, just since this latest rally, where the volume has been traded. Clearly, this 116 level is the point of control. And clearly, if we gap below this 116 level, we're going to come straight back down into probably these previous tops right here, which should provide some support. And then, once we get into some of this deeper volume, that should come in as support as well, because we know that this white line coming across the screen must hold. We cannot really see, a 4-hour candle close below this line. And same for the bears. They really do not want to see a 4-hour, or worse yet, a daily candle closing above 18,000. All right. So that's kind of how I'm looking at this. Now, if you wanted to take some entry points, you can take a fib like this on this latest move, right? And we're going to be looking for this retracement. I would say this 38.2, right? We really cannot close below that considering where we are, even if the price came down pretty heavy, as we approach the weekend into like August 10th. We cannot let this close below 115. So ultimately, 115, guys, is the critical point of support for Bitcoin right now. Otherwise, we probably will see that, 100K retest, which is a pretty significant decline from the current, price level at 116. But, I think in my gut, I know this bull run probably is not over yet. I do think that as we get to the end of August and September and October, historically very bullish months, Q3 and Q4 especially, and August is probably historically the worst in terms of average performance for Bitcoin. So, I think the decision time will probably happen towards the end of August, but we need to see how this plays out, guys. So you are going to want to stick around. I'm going to be updating this channel with, the latest price action data for Bitcoin as well as Ethereum. and some of the altcoin markets as well. Looking at market caps, let's just go ahead and take Bitcoin versus ETH right now because this is a very strong indicator of the overall bull market and how it's looking. So this is essentially an inverted ETH BTC chart. So this is looking very bearish right now. This is ETH outperforming Bitcoin. We can see has very drastically started to rally off of this top for the Bitcoin versus Ethereum chart. And now we're looking for these retracement levels into perhaps even 26. Right now we're trying to hold up on the 30 level, but we could come down to the 25 level and see if this kind of area right here with this old structure is enough to hold support. But right now, very, very solid looking performance on Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin, right? So we know that means the Bitcoin dominance chart is coming down. So let me just jump into that Bitcoin dominance chart. I think it's still holding that 60% level. It is. So let's jump into that Bitcoin dominance. So Bitcoin dominance, right? It had a pretty strong move up here like that and faked everyone out like it was going to start to consolidate back into Bitcoin and perhaps this altcoin season was going to be cut short, right? If Bitcoin dominance was coming up. But look at that. The bears were able to defend and send it right back down to 60%. A lot of capital flowing into altcoins right now. And we could see this chart come down even further. If we break this 78.6, we could see the Bitcoin dominance actually retest this 50% level. On the daily, we see the moving average really shifted over. So I think ultimately bears are in control of this chart right now on the daily. You can see we came up to the 50 moving average and it got sent back down. So as long as we can stay, I would say, below this moving average, there is a higher probability of Bitcoin coming down to the 55% level and having a pretty solid sort of altcoin season as we approach Q4 and perhaps Q1. But the long-term trading strategy remains the same. We are looking to very much exit positions in Q4 of this year. So we're gonna have to wait and see how these charts really develop. And looking at the dominance on the weekly, you can see we're closing below that 50 period moving average right now. And this chart has flipped bearish. And that is a very, very bearish sort of weekly engulfing candle here. So we could see Bitcoin dominance really fall and we could get this altcoin season. And that's kind of how I'm interpreting these charts at the moment. So that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.